Welcome to the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership Podcast. Subscribe now so you don't miss a drop of straight talk you can't get anywhere else. We discuss the whiskeys to drink, music to listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader. I'm your host, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. Tonight's guest, author, IT, and transformation specialist, Hunter. Hey, what you drinking? Yeah, I mean, there's some significant differences, but what you just shared reminded me of a conversation that I had literally 2 days ago with, he is the chief of, I'm going to get his title wrong, but he's like the head of all the medical examiners for the county of St. Louis. So he's for us old heads, he's Quincy's boss, right? He's not Quincy, but he's Quincy's boss. And we were talking about the fact that people follow leaders for their reasons, not for ours. So if I'm the leader, I can have the reason why I would love for you to follow me, but if you follow me, it's going to be because of your reason, not mine. And at the end of the day, I can't make anybody follow me, right? So if I can't make you follow me and you're going to follow me for your reasons, not mine, one of the first things I've got to do as a leader is figure out why you might want to follow me, right? What is in it for you? It might be a paycheck, right? Chances are pretty good it's probably a paycheck, but it could also be, esteem. It could be recognition. It could be I want to be acknowledged. It could be I'm breaking new barriers that my family's never ever done before. So it could be a variety of things that could be motivating that person to want to follow. And if you are going to be an effective leader, you would do well to try to figure that out. You can be a manager without figuring that out. It's going to be really tough to be an effective leader without figuring that out. Play with that for a little bit. What's your take on this idea behind people will follow for their reasons, not always for our reasons?
No, to me, it does make complete sense. And I can think of, right off the top of my head, probably 5 different leaders that I wanted to work for or was so happy to get to work for over the years, especially in telecommunications, because that sense of, I see that's the winning team over there. I want to be on the winning team. That's a very basic notion I think we all have, whether it's competitive sports or the work environment, or there's something about that leader in terms of charisma, or in some cases, it's not an outward charisma. It's just something about their presence. We've tried to describe it as executive presence and a lot of things like that in a number of books and things like that. There's something about being around that person that makes us feel like we're sort of a better person, or we're on the path to becoming like that person. And we do tend to emulate sometimes those characteristics. It's sort of a natural, I don't know if biological is quite the right word, but it is sort of a natural human function that we do sort of seek out that type of thing. And you've seen it too in cases where people feel like they're really, really stuck in their job. They're really stuck in their role on their team, in their company, and it feels like a complete dead end, and they're not inspired, and they're not dying to work for the leader that they have. They kind of give up sometimes and feel like it's hopeless and I'm just stuck and this is just how it has to be. We're among the very, very few 1, 2, 3% of the people in the world who get up every day excited to go to work, happy to go to work, can't wait to get there. Sometimes we don't leave when we should, and we start too early because we just enjoy what we do. We love what we do. Most people in the world do not love it. They wake up on Monday morning dreading going to work. And it has everything to do with what you just described. It's finding those things, their reasons, the thing that they're pursuing, that they're after, the company they want to keep, the leaders they want to follow. Doing those things for the right reasons is absolutely key, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I want to tap into something that I have experienced myself to some degree. You're working in what I call smart people industry, right? Where you got just brilliant folks to fill out an application to get into technology. You've got to have some intellectual chops, right? I've done some coaching in smart people industry like healthcare. I've done some work in technology, but typically those clients are coming in with the challenge of having been promoted to a manager or a leadership role because they were the subject matter expert. They were the subject matter expert. They were really, really good at creating that financial statement, and they could analyze the tax implications better than anybody else on the planet. So congratulations, I'm going to give you 25 direct reports and give you the title of senior vice president. And I need to get your input as to how our organization should be thinking about this future implication. And usually that's when they come to me and say, wait a second, this isn't quite what I expected. How prevalent have you seen that phenomena? Years ago, we used to call it the Peter principle, where you rise to your level of incompetence. How frequent do you run into situations where people have gotten to where they are because they were brilliant at doing a thing, not realizing that leadership is not something that you can necessarily pick up as you go along? There are implications to trying to pick it up as you go along. How prevalent is that in your experience?
Yeah, I would tell you it is phenomenally prevalent in the technology space, and it's probably not a big surprise to you. For the longest time, if you wanted to be an individual contributor at an expert level, you would really hit a ceiling, you would hit a cap in terms of earning potential and sort of the prestige that comes with higher titles and things like that. For a long time, the highest titles only happened in the management space and in the management hierarchy. Technology is definitely has been that way for a long time. I know of countless environments in which someone became a leader. I got the Peter Principle book right behind me on this shelf back here, as a matter of fact, and it does play out to me almost every day in the technology space. I know in most cases, most of these folks are intelligent enough to recognize that they're in over their heads and to go look for help from folks like yourself or other executive coaches, leadership coaches, or even the books we've talked about. In some cases, they just sort of stay underwater for a period of time, and I've seen them go back to an individual contributor role. You watch 2, 3 years in, they get to that manager or director level, and then suddenly you happen to notice the latest org chart comes out, and they're at this other, they're back to an individual contributor. It's not hard to tell what happened there. And these aren't bad people who are trying to do bad work. They want to do good work. As you said repeatedly, people want to do a good job. Most people want to do good work most of the time. That's the general nature of folks, and earn a fair check in the process. I will say in the last, say, decade or so, the technology space, as I've seen it, has really begun to grow. And those higher titles, we'll say like sort of principal engineer or principal technologist or master technologist, have really started to become more and more prevalent so that individual contributors who are those subject matter experts who are brilliant at what they do, we want to hang on to them. Clearly, they don't want to go down a leadership track, management track, and it's not the right fit for them. And so we either risk losing them or we risk pigeonholing them and they're sort of stuck hitting that ceiling, or we come up with a way to make it work. So there are a lot of folks who now are at a manager, senior manager, director, senior director, or even VP level with individual contributor titles in an engineering or technologist type of a way to really account for that problem and help make it work, where we hang on to our people, we grow our people, and we don't put them in a situation where they're just underwater and bound to fail.
Yeah, I love it because that has implications on their ability to succeed. It has implications on the organization's ability to succeed. No one benefits from people being put into positions where they don't enjoy it, they can't thrive. They ultimately are just going to burn out. So, what are some recommendations that you offer or that you would suggest for people who are noticing, hey, look, I'm getting towards the top of my individual contributor space. The next space is people manager. Don't know that I've really want to be a people manager yet. Don't know that I've got the chops for being a people manager. What recommendations do you offer for people to figure out whether or not that's something that they want to learn to do, because I might not even want to learn how to be a leader. I'm just a technology dude. I like setting a new watermark as to how good I can be with coding this new thing or coming up with this new innovation. What would you suggest to people who are trying to figure that out?
I will tell you, it's almost kind of funny because we've talked about it before. Really, the first place that I send people that ask about that, and is actually the very first book that I had, leadership book that I have all of the people leaders under me, and they're sort of the indoctrination I talked about earlier, read, is Patrick Lencioni's The Motive. Let's figure out, is leadership, is management right for you? Because it's not right for everybody. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are some people who are not suited to it. So I like to point people in that direction because it's a really good book. It's a really easy read. Everything he writes is phenomenally quick read, but somehow you draw so much great stuff out of it. And, it essentially talks about, are you there? Are you potentially moving to management, or are you in management so that you can succeed and you can grow and you can get accolades and you can get money and you can get prestige? Or are you there to serve others and help remove obstacles, roadblocks, and enable them and inspire them to succeed? If it's the former, it's really probably not the right fit for you. If it's the latter, it could very well be. And I think just sort of that eye-opening, even though a lot of the folks have heard this before, having it put together and packaged up in the way that Lencioni does it really helps to sort of, you know, put a framework or structure around that decision process. And again, what I love to say to people is there is absolutely nothing wrong if you arrive at the conclusion that leadership is not for me. I would not be happy in that space. And there are plenty of great jobs out there. If you don't think you'll be happy, let's find one that will make. I'll work with you. We'll find something that makes you happy and makes a good fit for you. That's the first step, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and I tried to steal so much from Patrick's work, because first of all, I love the fable approach, because you not only get what was intended, you start seeing yourself and you start seeing other people in the characters that he's writing about. And very similar to what you described before we went on air, it was my process that whenever I would take on a new team, I would buy them all a copy of Five Dysfunctions, and I would actually send it to them before I would meet them and just say, hey, look, I'm excited about this opportunity. Can't wait to meet you. Here's a book I want you to read. We're going to talk about this in our first meeting. And it just allowed us to have a conversation about who do we want to be as a team? What do we want to watch out for? And we're talking about the team without talking about people, without talking about individuals, because I don't know you yet. I'm not passing judgment on you. I don't know you yet. We're talking about the character in the book. But it just sets such a great foundation for those conversations that it could take 6 months, a year to get to without. Just everything Patrick does is just amazing. What are some other books that you've just really enjoyed? We talked about the Peter Principle. We talked about almost anything that Patrick Lencioni writes. What are some other favorite books that you have?
Well, it just so happens, and I'm admitting to you, I'm sort of making a shameless plug here. So for my book, the one that sort of brought us to the point of having the conversation about, having this podcast, Manage to Lead, Building Blocks for Leadership Success. At the end of that book is, in fact, a list of recommended reading, so to speak, the core of which is the core of Patrick Lencioni's work, whether it's Five Dysfunctions, Death by Meeting, The Motive, The Ideal Team Player, which literally, to me, is the foundation of a lot of the principle, that managerial principle we were talking about at the beginning. That framework, the ideal team player is a huge part of that, and I give credit to Lencioni in the book for that. So any of his works, The Advantage by Lencioni is really a summary of a lot of that other collection, his original collection of books. So I always tell people, don't read that first, because you're going to end up rereading everything. And then one that was really instrumental for me, and I'd say about 3-4 years ago, was The Go-Giver. I can't remember the name of the author that wrote it, or authors, but it was essentially about being the connector, being the person that puts the people together, not being the person in the spotlight, being the one behind the scenes that makes everything happen, and doing it for those right reasons. And I'm literally because it's happenstance and coincidence. I'm sort of stealing right things for right reasons out of your book because it just so happens to be a foundational part of my book. And that was complete coincidence, probably because we studied some of the same authors and some of the same principles. Um, Another one is Michael Bungay Stanier's book, The Coaching Habit, and another book of his, The Advice Monster. Love those books. Love his work. Love what he's done with that. I have 3 post-it notes on my monitors at my office, at my work, and they literally say, "What's on your mind? And what else? What do you think the root of the problem is, the source of the problem is?" Because I am the worst advice monster. I have the worst advice monster in the world. I already think I know the answer to whatever you're going to ask me before you ask it. I will cut you off in the process of asking it. And as MBS points out, that's probably not even the real problem anyway, you big dummy. I'm the worst at that. So I've really worked hard at trying to get better and better at that. And as you can tell, even on the podcast here, I'll just talk all day long. I'll just blah, blah, blah. My poor wife has to suffer through this every day. But to me, that was an instrumental book. I love the philosophy that comes with that. And then there's probably about another, I'd say 4 or 5 that are recommended reading that I can't think of off the top of my head that really follow in that sort of same vein.
Oh my! I mean, you are hitting all of the classics. Definitely, The Go Giver by Bob Berg is such a simple concept, and again, it follows that whole leadership fable approach. So you read that book, and you're going to instantly start seeing people that fit those characters. I guarantee it. And again, I really love The Coaching Habit, even as a professional executive coach. When I reread The Coaching Habit, I start thinking of how I can show up better as a coach. I assign that to my clients all the time because it's really written from the standpoint of how do I show up as a coach while I'm leading people. Another book, The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. Monkey management. How do I make sure that I'm allowing them to solve their problems rather than trying to show up as Superman and solve the problem? Because, again, my ego, the reason I'm here is because I was great at doing a thing and getting sucked into not only doing my work, but also doing my people's work. Another just fantastic book for you to check out. Man, you are just so chock full of wisdom, inspiration. Tell me, why did you go through the effort and the trial to actually write a book? It would have been just so much easier just to leverage the reading and leverage the books that are already out there. Why did you get to a point where you said I needed to put your opinion into the world as opposed to just leveraging the opinions that are already out there?
I really think the biggest motivator, and it was subconscious, it was not a direct conscious decision on my part, was seeing so much social media, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn especially, so much press out there that telling that story of don't be a manager, be a leader. And for some reason, it just gnawed at me that this doesn't sound right. This doesn't feel right. And as I finally took the time to sit down and sort of codify that management framework we talked about that became the book, it occurred to me that's what was driving this is there's 1,000 books, 10,000 books on leadership principles, how to inspire, how to do this, how to do that. And what I love, I'll be honest, as a quick side note, Galen, is, and I'm not blowing smoke, I'm being sincere. I loved that I read in your book nothing that said, hey, stop managing, just lead. You didn't say that in your book at all. You absolutely pointed out the priorities that belonged and where they belonged in the way that Trish, the character in the story, was sort of explaining it to Donna. But you didn't say, stop managing, it's bad. What's happened is, and what I sense is, and I've had people come to me as direct reports or in my hierarchy as leaders say to me, well, I can't do X or Y because that's micromanagement. And what we found out is by implication, people think management equals micromanagement. And it's one of those memes I use in terms of advertising for the book and the whole framework is management does not equal micromanagement. They're not the same thing. Management does not equal toxic work environment. Doesn't work that way. That's not reality. So what I wanted to do is put together that framework that said, here are the fundamentals of how you manage. Now, there are a bunch of other important things you do when you manage, not lead, but these are what we consider at Manage to Lead to be the most important, the most critical, the most fundamental. And I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to sort of go through those principles real quick, if it's okay,
Please
just
do.
so that I
Please
can
do.
sort of touch on those high points. So the first one is what I described at the beginning. There is no inspiration without respect. If you can't get folks to respect you, you're never going to inspire them no matter how hard you try. In fact, if you don't get the management stuff down, you're making a fool of yourself. And everybody knows it, and no one has the courage to tell you, including your own leadership, by the way, which is kind of funny, but that's what I've experienced and seen over and over and over again across many different industries and businesses. The second is the principle that Lencioni talks about in the ideal team player. There's a particular type of person that you want to hire. What I chose to do at Manage to Lead is sort of take a even more rigid approach, which is we only hire ideal team players. Our approach is this: we only want to hire high performing team members. The traditional model is you hire, you hire, you hire. You base your hiring decision on degrees, knowledge, certification, and experience. And if they check the boxes, you hire them, even if they're a complete awful person to be around, or if they completely lack all self-awareness altogether. And it turns out what you do is you sort of roll the dice, and then you discover once you've hired them that some people work out and they're great, and some people are not high performers, whether it's because they lack the aptitude or the attitude. And then you're stuck with them. And you and I both know just because you don't like somebody, it's not basis, not ground for firing them. So the business suffers. As managers, our absolute first priority is to bring value to the business every single day. And when I describe the business, what I mean is not dollars and cents and it all comes down to the almighty dollar. Not at all. We define the business that Manage to Lead as three things: the customers, the employees, and the stakeholders or shareholders of the business. All three should be balanced. All three should get attention. All three should matter and be important. If you focus on any one of those three legs of that stool, the stool is going to fall over. You take care of shareholders, your employees and your customers suffer inevitably. You take care of only your customers, guess who bears the brunt of it? Your employees and your shareholders. And if you focus only on your employees and that's all that matters, and somehow magically that just makes everything else work out, that's not real life. That's somebody else's internet meme. You got to focus on all three. So the business matters the most. And then the way we bring the most value to the business every single day is we put the best team on the field every single day. That's literally a quote from my book. And if I'm not mistaken, I just read that at almost that word for word towards the end of your book. Coincidence, sheer coincidence, audience, I swear to you. But that's the reality is you have to put the best team on the field every single day, no matter what. And those business ethics supersede any other ethics as far as we are concerned from the Manage to Lead space. And then the way you practice it on a day-to-day basis is we use what is called relentless accountability coupled with relentless appreciation. Relentless accountability is not browbeating people. Relentless accountability is not, tell them how stupid they were because they made mistakes. Accountability is simply, hey, don't forget, we do it this way. You're a human. You're bound to make mistakes. We all make them. And I'm just letting you know you made it. Well, here's what's interesting is when you hire only ideal team players, people that show those three characteristics of humble, hungry, and what Lencioni described as smart, kind of in that emotional intelligence sort of way, they don't mind accountability and they don't mind feedback. They don't mind constructive criticism. They're humble. Their egos aren't bruised. They're hungry to learn. They're excited that you shared new information with them and that they can be better. And they're self-aware enough to not act like a big jerk because you corrected them. How dare you have the nerve to correct them? So accountability, again, is not a toxic work environment and it's not micromanagement. It's not telling people how to do their job every second of the day. It's just course correcting because humans are going to make mistakes. I'm fond of the expression, if you're tired of mistakes happening at work, stop hiring human beings. Just hire machines. Problem solved. Reality doesn't work that way, right? We have to hire humans. And it turns out that imperfect human product that they build or make is the most beautiful, imperfect thing that there can be. In fact, it's a part of why we do what we do, in my opinion. And then the relentless appreciation piece is what has been described pretty characteristically in a lot of places pretty well, in my opinion, which is you got to tell these folks how much the work they do matters. You got to do it consistently, at least as consistently as you correct them when they make mistakes, which is the harder part of the job, in my opinion, as a manager. And you got to do it in a way that's genuine. If the folks on your team recognize that 2 p.m. every Thursday on your calendar is a little reminder for you to walk out on the floor and pat Tommy on the head and say, Tommy, you're doing a great job out there. Yeah, that's insulting, right? They prefer you just ignore them to that nonsense. You got to Give them the appreciation that shows that the work they do matters, and it matters in a way that not just dollars and cents in the bottom line for the business, but you improved someone's life, your coworker, your customer, or a shareholder. Their life is materially better because you did good work, because you do your job well every day. It's that level of appreciation we're talking about. And then you just rinse and repeat. Only hire ideal team players. You coach up or out the folks that simply cannot fit the model. And, in time, and what I have seen practically speaking is it's usually a 12 to 18-month period to really sort of get it down to the point where now, gosh, my whole team is basically nothing but ideal team players. They're all high performers, every single one of them. And you and I both know that is not the norm. The norm is we have to fit the standard statistical curve. We got to have 12 to 15% amazing people, 12 to 15%, why the heck are they here? Aren't you coaching them? And 68% people that meet that ordinary, normal statistical curve. My approach is, why can't we only hire those 12 to 15%? Just hire those people and nobody else. Why not? There's no rule that says you can't. So yeah, that's the approach.
I love it. I love it. You're actually stacking the deck in your favor, right? Rather than trying to change someone's motivation, you're actually only hiring people who are motivated. Fancy that. That's kind of a strange idea there. Ah, I love it, man. I love the simplicity. I love the common sense approach to putting yourself in a place where you can be successful by getting the right, and Jim Collins talks about that, getting the right people on the bus, right? That's the first thing. Get the right people on the bus and then worry about what seat you put them in. But if you don't have the right people on the bus, it really doesn't matter what seat you put them in. You're not going to get to where you need to be.
Well, I love that because it hits the heart of what I call sort of the magical leadership success formula. And we reference it at Manage to Lead, which is the right people doing the right things for the right reasons equals leadership success. It's as simple as that. Hire the right people, only ideal team players. Make sure they're doing they're doing the right things. Hold them accountable, for doing the right things. And then for the right reasons, because they're humble, because they're hungry, because you give them all the love and appreciation you can. It ends up being leadership success.
I love it. I love it. Man, I can't believe where the time is going, and the VIPs they are dying to hear from one of their own. So I got to get you into the VIP room. But man, tell me, where can we find this book? Where can we get a hold of you if we want to have you in our boardroom? If we want to have you speak to our organizations, how can we get a hold of Hunter?
Yeah, I'd say the first place I would send everybody is managetolead.com, and it's manage-to-lead.com with the hyphens. And that's sort of our website storefront. You can get just a free consultation, a free 30-minute consultation you can schedule on there. You can look at what our offerings are in terms of 1 hour, 2 to 3 hour, half day, full week training sessions in person. And then the book will also be for sale there, and probably we'll do other outlets as well. I will tell you right now, I am set to look at proofs in about 2 weeks for the book. The process for getting it printed and published was a little slower than we planned for, and that's just it's the first time doing it, and we learned a lot of hard lessons. I'm sure you probably learned a few too, and a lot of our listeners have been down this road. So in about a couple of weeks, we'll be looking at proofs. So I would say we're probably ready to ship in about a month or so, barring any real catastrophes. You can technically back order now if you want to. Absolutely, your order will be recorded and honored. If you don't want to, you want to wait until it's like, hey, it's official, it's out, that's perfectly fine. I'm not pressing people to back order. I'm not worried about it. We are doing a limited run, our first print release. But yeah, start at manage-to-lead.com, manage-to-lead.com. We also have a presence on LinkedIn, and we have a presence on YouTube. So we will have a Manage to Lead podcast on YouTube probably in the next few months, depending on how some scheduling goes and some of the technology works out. And it's going to be centered around some of the principles of the book and our approach, and then some of the future principles and discussions that we'll probably be looking at for a follow-up book in the next year or so.
Fantastic. Well, chances are by the time this episode comes out, the fact that you're listening to this episode right now, the book is probably out. So go check out the website, get a hold of Hunter. This guy has been doing this incredibly well for a really, really long time. And like I said, he's one of the few people that I have entrusted one of the only things that I've done halfway decent in my life, and that is hang out with the smartest, the cutest, the most talented little girl in the whole wide world. So he definitely has the goods. Man, I really, really appreciate reconnecting with you and being a part of everything that you're doing. We have just so enjoyed hanging out with all kinds of great leaders and thought leaders and authors like yourself. That is what has led to us being the 2024 Davey Award winner for Best Host and the 2024 Signal Award winner for Best Podcast in the self-improvement category. Because we have such amazing guests who really know what they're talking about, and we've got amazing listeners. So you're actually both. You're an amazing guest and an amazing listener. So, man, I want to raise my glass, raise my Dickel 14 year. And man, I just, again, want to thank you for everything that you're doing and how well you're doing it. Until we can hang out on the other side of that velvet rope. If you're not a VIP, I think Audrey said we changed the price down to $4 a month. $4 a month for less than $100. You're gonna get to hear this extra special conversation I'm gonna have with Hunter. I don't know what else I got to do. I mean, I'm giving you all this extra content. I let Audrey talk me into putting this down to $4 a month. Come on into the VIP room because that's where Hunter and I are going to be hanging out.
You have no excuse, people. No excuse. You got to do it.
Man, any final words before we toast over and get into the VIP room?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say honestly, Galen, I'm genuinely thrilled on a personal level that we have the chance to reconnect. I'm looking forward, to be honest with you, for a lot of great conversations in the future, whether it's over a podcast or it's just over a fire pit or hanging out somewhere. You are an inspirational leader. Your book was genuinely entertaining to read and inspiring for me. And I'm just honored to be in your presence. I'm honored to work with you. I'm honored to hang out with you and to call you my friend. So thank you, sir, so much.
Absolutely, and likewise. All right, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, it's not too late. Hit that subscribe button so you're sure to catch the next episode. If you're really enjoying the vibe, leave us a review or become a VIP for guest and show exclusives. Cheers.